Dear trading friends, today's video is specifically aimed at Pionex Grid Trading Bot users because we have the option to pause trading bots. So if I go to more on a running trading bot here, I have the option to pause a bot. But what is the point of doing that? Where are the significant advantages and what disadvantages can this also bring? In this video, I really want to go through that with you in detail, but also explain using the example of a paused bot, what that looks like. But I will also pause a bot live with you, in this case this very bot, and show you why and for what reason I do it and how I want to get more profit out of this bot. The first question that might come up, when should you pause a grid trading bot? I don't do that when it's in profit, but rather in cases like this one, where I say, like this bot here, it has a slight loss. But I've also prepared it in detail, where my starting price was, where we are now, and what advantage I see in pausing it for you. But of course, I'll also discuss with you why, if the market doesn't perform as I expect from my paused bot, I might generate a bit less profit than a bot that's still running. We'll go through all of this with a neutral bot, of course. We'll take a look at all of this using a short bot. I've already paused one there, but we'll also go through this with a long bot. Advantage number one, I'm going to show this now in the settings of a neutral bot because we simply have both long and short liquidations at the same time. After that, we'll do a short bot and then also a long bot. But if I pause this bot now, you'll see if I put it on pause immediately without specifying a price, then my liquidation price, which is currently at $114,934 above me, would instantly jump up to $145,106. Of course, that's a huge advantage if I'm maybe at my limit with my bot. But there's also a reason why it rises so much. I'll show you that in a moment. The second thing is my lower liquidation price of $26,597 would then actually avoid liquidation. And that's just in this example with a neutral grid trading bot. But I also have the option to set at which price my bot should trigger above me or rather below me if we drop down. Now let's get to this. Why does my liquidation price move from 114,000 to 145,000? That's because here, this is now the simulated bot, as you can see, 33,000 to 95,000 US dollars, 68,143 was my entry point back then. I simply recreated it now so you can see how it's currently working and why it's also a little bit in loss. But in this case, it's now like this. I would still have several short positions above me that could be filled in this neutral grid trading bot. For those who don't know, a very brief explanation. A neutral grid trading bot means that my starting price was here, and everywhere above that it opens short positions, always closing them at the line below, and it does this up to a price of, in my case, just under 95,000 US dollars. But if the price goes down, it always opens long positions and closes them again on the way up. This bot has really been running for a very, very long time. You can see here 66 days over 2 months. Accordingly, I was able to take advantage of a lot of this sideways trend, and that's how I generated these 8.64% in grid profits. So if I were to pause it now, I would still have a remaining balance from some grids above me here. And that's quite a lot of grids that would be waiting for me here and would be opened again as short positions. But if I pause it now, these short positions will also be put on hold and will no longer be filled. That's really, really great, especially if I think we might go much higher and I could face liquidation, but I can save myself by pausing the bot. That's all for now on this topic. Of course, the same would apply if the bot were moving downward. Depending on how many grids are still left above me, it also makes sense to pause them in order to lower my liquidation price. But that's just the first advantage. Here, we're only talking about the liquidation price. But now let's move on to the really exciting part, because the preparation, what I've done here, if I now pause the bot and say, okay, at this price, I'm going to pause it, then comes the truly brilliant game changer, which you first need to be aware of. If I now go into my transactions here, and I want to show a good example, then I have my completed transactions here. And if I scroll down a bit, I see, for example, this is a short order at a price of 80,847 US dollars, which still hasn't been closed. Let's go back now. And now comes the little bit of magic that can really bring you some very good additional profits. What did I just say? 80,847. We're looking for the grid where that was approximately. That's exactly this grid up here, and I'll quickly mark it and we'll zoom in a bit more here as well. And that's exactly my grid, which is currently waiting for its close position. But if I let this grid run now, it would take a profit of 0.42% here. However, if I pause this bot now, then all the close orders below me are also paused. And let's take another look inside. For example, my analysis now is, after this rise and reaching the target level, we could possibly see prices of 70,000 US dollars. But what happens in this case, because I'm in the negative here and I have some short orders open that are actually only ever closed from grid to grid, meaning from this grid to that grid, then I still have a small position that always takes about 0.42% profit here, and each small position would do this individually. But if I now put the bot on pause, the following would happen. My target price, as I just mentioned, is around $70,000. There are also huge amounts of liquidations at that level. What happens here now is this. This position would not be closed down here at 0.4%, but if I move it down to $70,000, then this single grid would yield about 13.25%. That is, of course, a lot more than these 0.44%. Let's move on to the other triggered orders. The completed ones are, of course, not interesting. Here I still see an open order at $80,510. In this case, that would probably be this grid, or maybe this grid as well, roughly this grid, and this one would also be paused here. That means all these grids, if I quickly highlight them here, the ones we still have open, they wouldn't make 0.4%, but only when I restart the bot down here at this price, each of these individual grids that are still open, and I can pull a few more in, would then not make 0.4%, and this is really brilliant. I didn't know that either. I later saw a detailed explanation and description of this in the Pionex Dash group on Telegram. That's why I'm sharing this with you today, because each of these individual grids would make 13%, 12% here, 12.5% here, 11.5% here, 10.98%, and every further open order that I find here, and as we can see here, we have at 79,836, 79,500. If I scroll further down here, I see again more at 79,163, 78,826. And then you can imagine how much more profit each individual grid would make up to a price. Now, in my case, if I say $70,000 is reached, but I can also reactivate it at any time earlier. Here I get an incredible number of good profits that a running grid trading bot would not generate for me to this extent. So what do we have here then? In this case, we no longer really have a pure grid trading bot. Even just by pausing, we actually have an incredible number of short positions. Each of these individual grid lines that we have here is actually a short position, at least those that have not yet been triggered for profit. And these would then actually turn into a kind of futures position, which would bring me much higher percentages. And for this reason, I am going to start a live test with you right here. Why? For example, I have found a sweet spot here. You can see it here. I opened Bitcoin neutral 4 times with $250 each, and they are all about the same. There's a few dollars difference here because the price was a little higher at the time of opening compared to the others. But with these sweet spot settings, $250, 9 times leverage, I was able to find incredibly good liquidation prices for myself. Accordingly, this is now really great for me because I expect that we will go down and that I can bring in even more profits as a result. For now, I'm going to pause this one briefly just so we have it as a small example. Live pause right away, and this one can then be compared to the others later on. So now I have 4 bots, one of which is paused and I can show you later. Feel free to check out my channel, stay tuned. I will show this again in the live stream, but also in videos how it looks in detail when these grid trading bots are running for comparison. How much more profit does my paused grid trading bot make? Because when the price goes down, it captures a lot more percentage per grid. Now, I was talking here about a neutral grid trading bot. In this case, it's exactly the same if I do this with a short grid trading bot. So for example, I have a short grid trading bot here. I'm going to click on recreate again now. We have a starting price of 78,679, just so you can see it. Then I can enter it here again. That was my starting price. It's a bit in the negative now, but here too I want to show you this again. In principle, with a neutral grid trading bot, it's the same as with a short grid trading bot. You pause this bot when it goes into the negative, so that in the event of a reversal, in this case downward, it can pocket much more profit. This short grid trading bot isn't the one where I do it, because in my case it's not negative enough. But conversely, if we do this again now and I go back once more, and we do all of this with a long grid trading bot. I'm going to pick another one here now, Hype for example, and do a recreate here, but 34.86 is the starting price. Just so you can see what it would look like with a long grid trading bot. That was my starting price. So this one is actually doing very well in profit right now. We have exactly our starting point here, which we also found in the Signal group. You can find the link to it in the video description, and it's been performing wonderfully in profit since day one. But if this bot were to go into the negative now, then everything would of course be the other way around. If I may illustrate this again here, as soon as the bot goes into the negative here, I would, for example, pause the bot so that it doesn't continue picking up its grids. Instead, if I believe we're seeing a reversal, which could very well happen somewhere in this area because we have very strong volume, then in that case, if it dips down here, I could say, I'll pause the grid trading bot here, and I want to close all the long positions that I opened at the bottom only on the way back up so I can capture more percentage gains. And here we can see there are also an incredible number of grids in there. And what could that bring in roughly? Then it's about 25% for one grid. The other one would probably be around 23%, 22%, and so on. I hope you understand what I mean when I say to pause a grid trading bot when it's in the negative. But now I said, okay, only pause the bot when it's in the negative. But what does it look like if I were to pause it when it's in profit? Let's go back to the high bot again. Now I've prepared that again in this case. With the high bot here, we now have a nice trend P&L of around 28.02%. And we can see here again in the transactions that every close position is already profit that has actually been locked in. And with this trend P&L, in this case, there are still a lot of open orders that are waiting to be sold. That's because it has open small positions everywhere here. But now I also have the option, if the price really has an incredibly strong candle, I'm really talking about a candle shooting upwards, and a lot of profits have been taken, then I have the possibility to pause a bot that is in profit in order to secure my trend P&L. Because on the way down, I would otherwise open new grids again, just like in this case here, where I would have a lot of new small grids opening on the way down, which would of course bring with them the possibility of new lost positions. That's why I could pause it, let it drop a bit, and only then decide that I don't want these grids to be triggered at all, so that this trend P&L is really locked in, and only restart it further down, perhaps where there was a strong consolidation zone, just like in this case, so that I only started again there. That way I would at least be able to secure some of the trend P&L, save it, and not take on new loss trades. Now let's briefly talk about the downside. Of course, this also has a certain disadvantage. I want to show you something about that. Because if you pause a bot like I'm saying now, for example, this one here, my neutral grid trading bot that I have, and the price keeps moving, then of course it won't open any new short positions. Of course, this can be good for a higher liquidation price, but also these small movements like we have here, and this is what makes it interesting. It's exactly these small movements, and we're only looking at the 1 hour chart here that actually give us the advantage, allowing us to continuously make small grid profits. Because of these small price increases and subsequent price corrections, we have many more opportunities here, while the bot is running, to keep making small grid profits over and over again. For example, here it entered a lot of shorts, here it closed the shorts again, here it entered shorts again, here it closed them all again, and it keeps making profits like this. That wouldn't happen with a paused grid trading bot. If I may give a small example, I have a 7 times short grid trading bot here. I paused it at a price of 81,974. Now we have to look at this. It has 16.20% loss, and I have the same bot here, exactly the same parameters, everything the same. This one only has 15.29% loss. Why is that? We can see it in the grid profits. Since I paused the other bot about a week ago, we now see 14.57% in collected grid profits here. Whereas if we look at the other one, we see it's only 13.52%. This means that as soon as the grid trading bot is paused, it obviously can't collect any new grid profits. Nevertheless, I will compare this, and I have already prepared everything in another video, which I will also release again. That's why I would recommend you subscribe to my channel, leave a like and a comment under this video, because later there will also be a follow-up in another video for which I have already recorded part of it in advance, showing exactly how I did all of this. How I paused these bots for comparison, and also what it looks like and how much more or less profit it might make compared to the running bot. Now, we don't just have this example, because in today's video I also paused this other bot here, which I just showed you earlier, and I believe this should be my first neutral grid trading bot. No, it's not this one that's paused. Let's scroll down a bit further. It should be further down here. Here we can see it now. This one trading bot that I paused at $80,808 US. And now we even have 2 comparisons of what it looks like when the bots keep running. But in my opinion, okay, according to the analysis, I think there are a lot of liquidations below us, a possible Fibonacci level after more than a month of continuous upward movement without any real correction. And that's why it's going to be very, very interesting to see how much more profit a paused bot can make, of course, with a reasonable analysis compared to a bot that isn't paused. And I'm really looking forward to seeing the outcome myself. The good thing is, of course, I can switch it back to active mode at any time by clicking on restart. But at the moment, it's actually really great for me to see what will hopefully not happen, so that this bot can actually keep going up quite a bit. Because there's still the possibility that we could keep rising much higher, and in the meantime, the bot wouldn't be working at all. But in my case, That's not a problem either. Then I would simply put a second bot on pause here since I have 4 identical bots. And if I were to put the second bot on pause further up, I would of course have even more results showing what it would look like if you had several bots running at the same time, to be better protected and maybe even see if we really do rise somewhere to $86,000, then I could capture a 20% drop, and of course that would be spread across several grids. And I'm already curious to see which comparison I'll be able to show you. You know, my channel is all about passive income and trading bots that I share with you. Also, that's 100% passive income on autopilot, which I've been running for over 2 years without a loss. I explained that in detail as well. You can also do that on Pionex. There will also be a new update video soon because Pionex has added an incredible number of new features. But you already have a complete playlist, both the Crypto Trading Bot tutorial and the Pionex Grid Trading Bot live test. That's right, here we are together in a live stream with the community. We went through various grid trading bots and opened them together. I shared everything live, what it looks like with profits and losses. That's why I try to provide as much value for you as possible. And that's it for this video. See you next time.